Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Fantasy for the Ages, the show where father and son sit down and talk about fantasy books. I'm the son of that equation, Zach.
And that makes me the father, Jim. And it is wonderful to have you with us again here today, including Carrie in the Discord. Nice to have one of our Patreon supporters hanging out with us. She's only here for a little while because she hasn't read these chapters yet. First time reader, but she's almost to these chapters. So we'll see her hanging out a little longer in the near future. That's a good reminder, by the way, as we do all of these are safe for first-time readers as long as you've read this far. Because we don't spoil things beyond what we're covering, but we do kind of talk in depth about the chapters we're on.
I mean, really, if you wanted to not read The Wheel of Time and just listen to our podcast, it's a disservice to you. I don't recommend it, but you could, I guess.
And I don't want to push that because then we've got, Robert Jordan's estate coming at us saying, hey, you're starting to steal people from buying our books.
I'm just saying they shouldn't
never
do that, but I'm not going to tell people not to listen to us either.
Oh, so, well, yeah, we do want them to listen to us. That's true. Yeah. In fact, we have had upticks in people listening to us. It's kind of fun to see more subscribers finding us on YouTube and more Twitter followers.
Mm-hmm.
The episode that drops just before this one is a Just Jim, where I talk about zombie apocalypse recommendations. And so you weren't with me when I highlighted the fact that we're now over 800 followers on Twitter.
Woo!
And that's cool.
I feel like just yesterday we were at 50. No, I'm kidding. But it was 100. I remember celebrating 100. That wasn't that long ago.
It's nice to have so many more people just having fun with us out there. And YouTube, we hit 150 subscribers. And then an hour later, we were back to 149. I was like, YouTube, you tease. What are you doing to us? We're right there. And then you pull it away. But we'll get to celebrate hitting 150 again soon. And maybe by the time this episode is dropped. Yeah. One of those new subscribers on YouTube was listening to some of the short content that I put out there, our tiny talks, quick take episodes, reactions to books, and was appreciating them. And he dropped a comment on one of them that I felt I needed to bring here. I told him I was going to put this on an episode now because it was perfect. Because he mentioned some of the books that he's enjoyed or is enjoying. This was on the Tress of the Emerald Sea review that I did. And he's got that book, but he hasn't read it yet because he's still been busy reading other things. You can only read so many things at once.
I connect with that. I'm in that boat. Haven't read it yet.
Right. Well, one of the books he mentioned he's reading is Lord Foul's Bane, which is part of the Chronicles of Thomas Covenant. I was like, yes, love that. Zach doesn't feel the same.
It's a point of contention for us, yeah.
and he was like, for sure. He says, with Covenant, I feel like I'm reading Lord of the Rings meets Breaking Bad. And that's two of my favorite things put together to great effect. And I was like, that's brilliant. Yes, that is an apt description. The epic fantasy of Lord of the Rings with the dirty grunginess of Breaking Bad, but still great fiction. But not in your opinion.
It's a take on it didn't sit well with me. That's not to say it's necessarily bad. I just didn't like it.
This also came to us from a specific person, Michael R. Schulteis. And the reason I tossed the name out there too is he's an author. He's a fantasy author. He's actually invited us to read one of his books and review it on an episode.
Ooh.
So I haven't responded yet, but I will. It looks like a good book. So
I'll tell you, I don't think I've read it yet, but it may get bumped up in my TBR so that we can do that.
There you go. Also talking about people finding us and following us, we're rising back up in the charts in Norway. You remember back in the day, Norway was all over our episodes?
Oh, yeah.
They're finally here again.
So, we're glad to see / hear from you.
The Norwegians, we love you. Czechia, we're still high. That one's been for a while. But a new one showed up in the ratings, people listening to us. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's like, What a name.
What do they speak? British? I'm kidding. I'm very much kidding.
Wow, your education really did suffer. Okay, I get you.
Yeah, I went to the school of smartassery and everything else went out the window.
Yeah, in that one, you perhaps succeeded. Okay.
Exceeded, actually.
Exceeded. I'm noting I'm a little choppy on the video at times. Is it showing that way to you too?
A wee bit to me.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I'm closing some other applications right now. Ease up the CPU on my computer. My fan on the computer is running right
It's
now,
okay.
and
Your
it shouldn't
computer's
be.
like you. It's getting a little bit older. It's not quite as fast
Oh
as it once
man,
was.
an old age, yeah, old age crack. Really? Isn't
It's
that low hanging fruit? Come on.
it's an age-old jibe.
All right, before we move into, wow, my mouse froze now. Okay, it's back. There's something going on with my computer right now. That's not a good sign. Hopefully, we don't lose the episode. It's like, come on, man, really? Okay. A couple other things we've got to do before we jump into content. One,
Okay.
we have to know, what are you drinking?
Yes. It's still January as of the time that we're recording this. I think when this releases, but I'm not positive. So I'm still drinking vodka-based cocktails. Today we start with a take on a white tea. So it's 1 part peach schnapps, 1 part vodka, and then topped at the end with a little bit of sour mix. I garnished with some lemon. I think it's pretty tasty. It can be a little sweet, and so it's definitely a smaller amount drink, but if you're into it, it would also be a very good shot. So tasty, simple, sweet.
All right, very nice.
What do you got, Dad?
I've still got computer problems. I'm looking and seeing something is going on with Google Chrome right now that's messing with it. It's not just that I'm running this through Google Chrome, I don't think.
Oh, no.
Taking way too much energy. Okay, I'll try not to let it distract me and just keep going. I was lazy, and I'm drinking wine.
But what
Wine
kind
is
of
good,
wine?
though.
What wine are we drinking?
This
Go
is a
deeper
Cabernet
than that.
Sauvignon
What's the
from
year?
Mary Hill Winery. It's a premium, reserve wine, so it's high quality. I only bring the best for you all, but I didn't make a cocktail yet because I didn't feel like a cocktail today. Sometimes you just don't feel like a cocktail at 1 p.m.
What? You mean we don't always day drink?
No,
Answer
apparently
to
not.
everyone: we tend to drink responsibly and rarely day drink.
I mean, the worst of our drinking happens on the podcast. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, I will come up with something more creative though for our next episode because we are doing 2 back-to-back ones. Second one, not about Wheel of Time.
Fantastic. And then speaking of not about Wheel of Time, the last thing that I know of that we need to get into is what we're reading right now. Dad, what have you been reading?
Okay, I'm reading some great books and they're all on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. So directly below me is Furies of Calderon. That's book 1 of Jim Butcher's Codex Alera series. Fantastic. I'm plowing through this thing. I'm about 2/3 of the way through already. This is an Audible for me. Not technically Audible. I rented it from the library and listening through the Libby app, but it's so good. Very entertaining. And then next to it is a brand new novel. I think it dropped last year. But it's the first of a series, The Trials of Ashmount. It's an indie author, John Palladino. He is someone who interacted with us on Twitter, which is great. And man, this book, I have not stepped into a new series, a brand new thing that I hadn't heard about from other people that I liked this much in a long time. This is solid.
Praise.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to read the rest of the series as it gets published. I believe he's still working on book 2. So it'll be a while, but worth the wait. And the last one is for our book club, Discord book club. Point the right way over there, the Renegades of Pern. We've got one more week of reading before we meet for that one. So I'm plowing through that. How about you, Zach? What are you reading?
Well, I finished the Renegades of Pern already.
Show off.
I also down here recently read Full Moon.
We need to get you a short episode on that.
It was an enjoyable little thing, but I'll save thoughts. In addition to that, let's see, finished Rise of Empire. I think that's been since the last time. So second book in the Rhaenyra Revelations trilogy. I've started now Heir of Navran. And I've also started The Blade itself.
Hey, nice. First Law trilogy. I will be very interested to see what you think of that one.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm not too far in yet, but already I can tell you. It's good. It's gross.
Well, it is grimdark, as they say. So, there is that. Sorry for my slight distraction for a moment. I'm going to try to turn the green screen off on Discord because I think maybe that's the one thing I'm doing that's different from other times and is taking up too much.
So sorry, anyone who's with us live or who joins later, who's here now, any and all of the above. You just get a green background.
Yep, there you go. Green. It's Zach's favorite color, so that's all right.
It's a pretty good color.
All right, we've taken care of our notes. It's time to get into some content. What do you say?
I'm down. Let's do it. Wheel of Time,
All
The
right.
Fires of Heaven.
Carrie, we'll see you later. So we don't spoil you. There she goes. All right. Well, we're doing chapters 13, 14, and 15.
A 3-chapter day.
Yep. And I'm going to bop out of Discord. Hope that fixes my fan.
Okay.
So this chapter 13 is a small room in Sienda. It opens on Elayne, Nynaeve, Tom, and Julian traveling across Amadecia in the style we'd last seen them use when they escaped from Ronda Macura. Remind us of the
setup. You still say that so
I
weird.
know, Macura, sorry, it's hard. Remind us of the setup, the way they're traveling, Zach.
I mean, they stole a carriage. They're doing this whole lady and lady
harsh,
waiting.
Stole,
I mean,
borrowed.
They have no intention to actually give it back.
What do the police do when they take over a vehicle for important business? There's a word.
Commandeer.
They commandeered the coach, dude. They're on official business.
I can't vouch for this really because I'm not a cop in any variety. But I feel like there is some sort of follow-up or follow-through or something when you commandeer a vehicle. If you know out there, please let us know what happens after you, quote unquote, catch the bad guy.
Or trash the car, which also often happens.
Does the city pay the rightful owner for the damages and stuff? That would make sense. But I don't know. Or is this just Hollywood and people don't commandeer vehicles?
Yeah, it's a fair question. Don't know. Someone can shout out and tell us. They're in disguise too, right? They're not just on this.
No,
coach.
They're being lady in waiting, whole situation. There's some dyed hair involved, a lack of a braid, different dresses. They're trying to not be seen for, oh, hey, look, that's the daughter of Andor going by.
Right. We learn that they're skirting around Amadicia's capital right now, Amador. So, okay, we're in Amadecia, yes. They don't want to go right through the capital, even though it's a little longer to go around.
I mean, it's better to go around when going through is like walking through a volcano. It's like, no, you can just skirt the outside instead of getting burned by the White Cloaks.
Yeah, because Amador is headquarters for the White Cloaks, but also for the government of Amadecia. So who's the ruler here in this country, Zach?
On paper or really?
That's very apt, because there is a king, but Does he really pull the strings?
No. Realistically, Pedro Nile, who runs the White Cloaks, also runs this country.
Yes, he does. The king can do what he wants, but he better make sure Nile is on board. We learn the conditions here are exceedingly dry. There's not much green around. There's lots of brown. There's drought conditions in the region. We also learn Nynaeve is in a pretty sour mood. And when Nynaeve's not happy, nobody's happy. She's making Elayne miserable. Now, this is tied to a specific experience the previous evening at an inn. Tell us what happened.
Well, there was a whole altercation where Nynaeve's been posing as the serving woman.
Yep.
Because Elayne knows how to be a lady. It's not acting. She just is.
Mm-hmm.
And the innkeeper looked at her and went, "Oh, none of my people are good enough to treat you. None of my people are good enough to take care of you. But your servant, she's going to know all your tailored needs, everything you need. She'll take care of you. There's that." And Nynaeve had to play the part, and it sucked.
Had to do everything for her.
And it wasn't Elayne's fault.
No.
But Nynaeve is definitely going to blame Elayne for it, and kind of went overboard.
Oh, and it still is. Well, whatever you say, milady, she's still dropping lines like that. Anything that Elayne tried to do to ease the burden on Nynaeve was like, no, I need to do it. This is a proper thing. I'm your serving lady. She really went all in. She was a twit. It was like, seriously? Now, Elayne has tried talking her down, tried getting her to calm down, be, more rational about it. But finally, she just snaps at her. She gives her a little bit of what for, and that's what finally works.
Yeah, Nynaeve doesn't respond well to people being nice to her.
You gotta understand Nynaeve's love language. It's shouting. Shout at me.
Shouting and big sticks.
And big sticks. Now, Tom and Julian, they've been riding around, outside. They're on the outside of the carriage. And I'm imagining wise men, they're just staying out of this thing the whole time. Just whatever Nynaeve wants, that's what we'll do. We're keeping our heads down.
I keep driving the carriage. I just keep driving. It's fine.
Yep. And humorously, it plays out here where earlier in the chapter, Nynaeve shouted out, "Would y'all move this thing? We gotta go faster." And okay, no complaints. And they go fast, and they're getting bounced all over the carriage. And now when she's finally done with her sulk, she's like, "Would you guys slow down? Are you insane?" Again, no complaints. They just
do it.
They slow down, whatever you need.
They're not getting yelled at.
But then the carriage comes to a sudden stop, and they kind of get thrown around, and they're like, "What in the world?" But looking out the window of the carriage, it's immediately obvious why they've stopped. They've come upon, on the road, coming at them, so, it's kind of in the way, a traveling menagerie. What's this mean in this context, Zach?
It is a show of performers and animals and all of the above, and it's a circus fair carnival-esque
basically,
traveling act.
So you can see animals, you can see performers.
As I understand it, my definitions of the words could be funky, but to be a menagerie, it requires that you have animals, right?
Well, technically, I think.
Or
a display of things.
A traveling circus troupe can't be a menagerie unless it has wondrous animals or trained animals or something to see as well.
That could be. Have you ever read Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie?
I've heard of it. I have not read it myself, no.
It's on the required reading in a lot of high schools, so I thought maybe you had.
No, I read Older, Deader People.
Tennessee Williams is an older guy. Come on.
Yeah, how old? When was it written? Give or take?
I don't know. In the 1900s.
See, I was reading things that were like the 90 ADs.
Okay. All right. Well, in the Glass Menagerie, there is a glass menagerie, and it gives argument to what you're saying because it's these little glass figures, and they're all animals. So I think you might be onto something. A menagerie is a collection of animals.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. But this menagerie is more than that because it's got acrobats, it's got strong men, it's got, I don't know, bearded lady. It doesn't go into the details, but it's got all these different kinds of acts that are go around performing. And Elayne, as she looks at the collection, she notes 3 animals in particular that jump out for her. She definitely didn't expect to see these. The description of them is huge, wrinkled gray animals as tall as the coach, with big ears and great curving tusks beside a long nose that dangles to the ground. Obviously, in our turning of the wheel, we call those
elephants.
Yes. Unless you're a major Lord of the Rings fan and you still say Oliphant all the time.
No, those are way bigger.
But here, they're known as something else. Something Elayne has seen before, never expected to see again. And that name doesn't come up here yet. But do you remember the reference, Zach? You know, where she's seen these before?
I know where they'd be known from, but I don't remember us actually getting that reference previously. Like, I don't remember
I'd have to go back and
being commented on previously, these creatures. I know where they're from.
We're in Elayne's POV, and so she's going to think momentarily in the chapter where they're from. So just spill it anyways. Where has she seen these before?
As part of the Shan-Chan invasion, these were beasts that the Shan-Chan brought, apparently from Shandar.
Right. So she saw them in Falme. And why are they here? Why are they part of a menagerie? Interesting. As she's clearly staring at them, wondering what's going on, a man walks up to them, the proprietor of this menagerie, one Valen Luca. And he greets them and he fawns over the ladies and points out these gray animals. These, no need to fear, they're very controlled and tame. They are giant boar horses from fabled Shara. And Elayne's like, she wants to call BS because she's like, no.
But it also would give away the fact that she knows where they're from.
Right. So she should play stupid here.
And let's give Luca some credit here. He recognizes that it's in bad taste to say they're from Shandar. People aren't gonna want to come see that or trust that. So let's use the mythical land of Shara the other way.
And he weaves this amazing tale of his adventures, personally going to Shara. Nobody gets to go, remember, but he went in and he saw these people who are big as giants, and he got these elephants, and it's like,
he's truly behaving as the greatest showman.
Cue the music. Okay. We quickly learn that all of Luca's words, the story, the attention he's giving these women is aimed at getting some money out of them. Okay, he sees a fine lady with her servants. He's trying to impress her, and he's hoping he could even do a private show right here. We'll set up right here and do this for some coin because the dude is dead broke. Yeah. Nynaeve is like, no, not having anything. She's, very protective of their money.
Miserly, if you will.
Right. It's interesting that a traveling show is dead broke. We'll get to why in a moment. But he, kind of tries to sweeten the pot or urge their decision and saying, we could do a show for you right now, but we need your decision because we have to be off. We're heading to Gildan. And she's like, why Gildan? I've heard it's a mess in Gildan. The prophet of the dragon reborn is gathering all these followers. They become such a horde that, riots are likely. Even an army couldn't get rid of them now. There's so many of them.
Yes, but where there are mobs, there are opportunities for bread and circuses.
Nice. Good reference. They specifically are seeing, crowds equals cash. So we're going to where the people are. But here's the reason we need to go now. Luca reveals, the town that you're headed towards, we just came from. and we ran into a bit of trouble. See, one of those giant boar horses had a little accident.
You make it sound
got,
like it used the bathroom in the wrong place.
oh, I wish only that, he's thinking. It got out of control, something startled it, and it did a little property damage. And all of the damage needed to be paid for, as well as they were fined, and it took all his cash. He's got nothing. He's like, if you would allow us to perform for you, make some small payment, I'd be happy to list you as the menagerie's patroness and spread your fame and glory far and wide. Elayne's like, that's the last thing we need. We're trying to stay, on the down low. Why are they trying to stay hidden? I mean, we talked about this, that they're in disguise and in this coach, but we haven't reminded our listeners why this is important.
Last time they tried to make contact with someone seemingly trustworthy, an agent of the Yellow Aja's eyes and ears, they were drugged, and apparently there's orders to bring them, especially Elayne, to the White Tower.
Right. They need to be incognito. And that's why her hair is black now.
Yeah. And that's ignoring the fact that there's still a Forsaken that they've pissed off. There's Black Aja they were hunting, who may now be hunting them.
Their list of people they got to stay away from is pretty significant. Now, for that, therefore, they've even invented these different identities. And Elayne is posing as a lady from Cairhien. Now, that actually works for a reason that makes a lot of sense. Why is it appropriate she chooses to be a Cairhienan lady?
Well, one, she's really far away from Cairhien, so people aren't going to question her on it. But two, she technically is a Cairhienan noble.
Yeah, she's 50% Cairhienan.
Yeah.
Her dad was full-blood Cairhienan royalty. So, yeah, that works.
She's not lying.
She's not lying at all.
Just not telling the whole
truth. She's lying about her name and her hair color.
Yeah, no, dyeing your hair is not the same thing as lying about your hair color. It's just changing.
Hey, anyone who dyes their hair is lying. It's true.
No, she's not claiming that it's her natural hair color. Well, she might be.
Okay, point taken.
Most people aren't.
If they dye it to pretend that's its natural color, okay, they're lying. But it's a white.
So what you're saying is, if you get old enough that you start going gray and you're dyeing it to keep it from growing gray, you're lying, but it's okay because you're allowed to lie about that.
Well, I'm just choosing not to judge, but it's a lie. You're pretending it's not gray. I
look forward to seeing what. Let's just be clear. Only some of that is cut off. Some of it fell out.
True. Yeah, your mother has no gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
And neither of you are lying about that.
All right. Elayne closes this conversation by telling her servant, Nana, give him something for his troubles, and we must be off. Nynaeve gives him a single coin, just a silver coin, along with a rude comment that, if you had a real job, you wouldn't be in a situation like this. Dang, girl. And Elayne's like, you could have been nicer about it as they're leaving. But I want to point out when she makes a comment afterwards to Elayne, she's like, I mean, he could work. A little foreshadowing that she notices this about him.
Interesting.
Yeah. Our group moves along then, approaching that reference town. We learn the name is Sienda. They do see some new construction taking place, so perhaps that's the repairs from the giant boar horse issue. They also see even more children of the light than they've seen in previous towns.
Gross.
Lovely, yeah. Along with plenty of the king's soldiers, and there seems to be some tension between the two groups. They clearly do not like each other. Also, it's noted there are some questioners amongst the crowd that everybody stays clear of. Even the other children of the light remind us who these scumbags are.
Yeah, nobody really likes the religious zealot torturers. Because that's what they are.
Yeah. Guys who, in the name of right, get off on hurting people. Not cool. Not cool. Do you think there might be some good questioners? Genuinely believe in what they're doing?
Genuinely believe in what they're doing? Yes. Does that make them good?
They all get settled in at an inn. Now, one of the inns they could have chosen is the one that's being rebuilt. So that was off the board. So the one they go to actually has a name. I forget exactly. I didn't take it in the notes, but it was reminiscent of White Cloaks. It's like, they would have rather not stayed there, but it's their choice. It's not that big a town. The men, they're going to go ahead and head off into town. They're servants and the ladies have checked in, so they're free now. The women, Elayne plays this lady role and says, I need my servant, my lady's maid, with me in the same room, but separate beds, but decent beds, please, because otherwise she will snore terribly. Nynaeve's like, say what, girl? But it's true, so she doesn't actually make much of a stink.
Yeah.
And they turn in. They turn in fairly early because it's a Tel'aran'rhiod day.
Woo!
Say what? What does that mean? There's an appointment to meet
Egwene.
Yes. And they know Egwene will be there with a handler. She always shows up with one of the wise ones. And that's a whole different part of the story, and we've learned about that before. It's Nynaeve's turn today to go to Tel'aran'rhiod. They take turns at it. They use that dream ter'angreal they have, and Nynaeve goes ahead and gets dressed for bed, relaxes, drifts off to sleep, but before she falls asleep, Elayne gives her a message. Says, please tell Egwene to tell Rand that I love him, and only him. Nynaeve does the major eye roll, but fine, I'll tell her. And that's the end of the chapter. Chapter 14 is called Meetings.
I imagine we're going to be seeing that meeting. And maybe others.
Yeah, there's a pluralness to that name. So we're in Nynaeve's POV now as she appears in the usual meeting space in Tel'aran'rhiod. Where is that space they've kind of designated as an easy spot to show up?
The heart of the stone, in the Stone of Tyr. It's a place that they know well. It's where Rand went, hey, sword in the stone, no one can pull this out. You do, you die.
Yep.
And so Callandor's just sitting there.
And it's a brilliant location to choose because in Nynaeve's thoughts here, we're going to get some reminders about things about Tel'aran'rhiod. And one of those is that people can just randomly show up in Tel'aran'rhiod. It's a real place, but everyone's kind of connected to it, and everybody's dreams are like right up against it. And sometimes you can actually, without any intention, dream yourself into Tel'aran'rhiod.
Now it's usually a blip in, blip out, but
you're likely to do that in places you're familiar with. Very few people know or have ever been in the Heart of the Stone. It's a very secure location, right in the center of the Stone of Tyr. Only nobility and guards ever even get into the stone. And until Rand did his thing, people only went into the Heart of the Stone like once a year. So it's a good location to use. It makes sense. When you're in Tel'aran'rhiod, you're in a place that's a reflection of the waking world. So things from the real world you will also see here. And so you mentioned Callandor. It's here, just like Rand left it. And she has that thought about when Rand left it, he did things to it. So there's traps, but he used Sidene, so she can't see anything. Mm-hmm. But she does understand from what he said, these traps make it so if anyone else other than Rand tries to step up and pull this sword out, they will die quickly, painfully, or maybe something even worse will happen. And I'm like,
they'll be turned into a newt.
A newt.
And they won't get better.
But will they float?
That's to be seen.
We get a few other reminders about the world of dreams here, as Nynaeve is sitting here waiting for the coming meeting, because nobody else is here yet. It's just her hanging out. One is that even though it's a reflection of the real world, you can find things in Tel'aran'rhiod that aren't in the real world. So you'll see real world things, but you can also see things that are only here. Also, it's a dangerous place. What happens to you here is real. It's not like a dream. So if you die in Tel'aran'rhiod, you're dead.
Well, that's not good.
You were sleeping in the real world. Well, you don't wake up. You die. That's the end. We've had signs before, Varansadai, showing them, how you can get wounded, and the wound comes with you into the real world. I mean, this is a dangerous place. Nynaeve also makes a telling comment here that, honestly, I only caught this time on this read-through. It finally jumped out to me, where she says she's thinking to herself how channeling really isn't necessary here, which is good for her because she can only channel when she's mad. But she thinks, in fact, one can do things here that might not even be possible with the power. And I'm like, first-time readers, remember that comment. That's just what I want to say. Yeah. Nynaeve is here, of course, to meet with Egwene and her Wise One handler, but she actually came much earlier than the appointed time because she's planning to meet with someone else that no one else knows about. It's a secret. And we see her find Birgitte Silverbow.
Gotcha. It's not a secret for very long. We learn the answer very quickly.
But only we know. Because here's the deal. We've had interactions between her and Birgitte before.
Yeah.
We've learned from that Birgitte is not supposed to be interacting with her.
Yeah. It's kind of a big no-no for the Heroes of the Horn, but they
it's not like
apparently just like hang out here.
Nothing says she can't interact. It's understandings that she and the other Heroes of the Horn have. You don't interact with anyone while you're hanging out here in Tel'aran'rhiod.
And it seems as if it's not like an explicitly written rule book, but it is relatively explicitly understood by all of them that they're not supposed to do that.
There are reasons. Now, the last time, well, I don't know if it was the last time, but one of the more recent times that Nynaeve had met with Birgitte, Guido Kane had come along, and he was kind of really upset that she's interacting with one of these people here. It's like, you're not supposed to do this. Guido Kane is her bow. I mean, they're a thing.
I know her silver bow is her bow.
Nice. Well, okay, I'm not going to say the comment that came to my mind. We're not that kind of podcast. But he's not here now. He hasn't been seen for a while, Birgitte says, which means he's likely been spun out by the wheel. What does that mean, Zach?
Apparently the Heroes of the Horn will be reborn time and time again and be new heroes with maybe new names and new stories, but they're still serving that same role. They're still that hero, more or less.
Mm-hmm. And so Birgitte is also thinking, Guido Kane always is spun out before I am, but if he's gone now, it means my next time is coming soon as well. But it's hard to know just how soon that will be, because this is another thing that's referenced now. Time flows differently.
It's wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey here. It doesn't make sense in relation to the waking world.
And totally screwy, because we've certainly read other fantasy things where time doesn't work the same in one place versus another, but there tends to be some consistency. Like maybe it moves faster in this world than the other, or slower. Here, it does whatever the heck it wants.
Yeah, Tel'aran'rhiod actually works on the Jeremy Bearimy time curve, which, if you've watched The Good Place, is a great reference.
Sorry.
And if you haven't, shame on you.
I'm the only one.
Show. Great show.
You've watched it. Your mother's watched it. Melissa's watched it. I never got that show. Yeah. So it could be that she'll be still hanging out in what she perceives as years. It could be days. It's hard to know what's going to happen here because it doesn't line up with the real world quite the same way. Other things that are revealed because, okay, here's what Birgitte's doing. She's in Tel'aran'rhiod serving as an intelligence officer. She's spying on what's happening so she can report to Nynaeve what she sees. And specifically here, she's seen a lot of Forsaken showing up. Lanfear in particular, but also Ravine, Samael, Grendel, Demandred, and Semerhaj. She really doesn't like saying Semerhaj. There's some history there apparently.
Apparently.
She notes that they like interact with each other sometimes, but really they seem more worried about each other than anything else. Notably, she says she has not seen Moghedien. Nynaeve asks, Nynaeve, they would like to know what Moghedien's up to. Nope, haven't seen Moghedien. And Asmodean is another one that hasn't been seen. Those are the only two Forsaken that we know are still out there that she hasn't seen hanging out here in Tel'aran'rhiod.
Now, we know Asmodean isn't because we know what's up with him. Moghedien, is she not? Or is she just hiding very, very, very well?
Is she just that good? Good question. The final thing we learn here is that Nynaeve is still being held to secrecy by Birgitte. Because she's like, if I could tell others how I'm learning the things you tell me, it would be really helpful. And she's like, no, I've broken a bunch of rules helping you as it is. I refuse to break more. This will be our secret. You may not spread further that I'm here, that I'm around, that I'm doing stuff. No, you said you would keep the secret. I'm holding you to that. She's like, oh, fine. And then Birgitte vanishes prior to the appointed time for Egwene to show up. But I want to note, that seems fishy to me, because we just heard time flows differently here. So is this potentially a plot hole? How can you have an appointed time and know, oh, she's almost here, if it doesn't necessarily match up?
I don't know. Maybe Birgitte at least has some level of understanding of the differences between these times and can see them a little bit. And so she can be like, right, this is how this is going to work out.
I think there's a huge issue with Nynaeve deciding to come in early.
I think
because who knows what early may end up being.
There is a large issue there. However, maybe she came in 2 hours early and she only got 5 minutes. Maybe she came in 5 minutes early and she got 2 hours.
Which is fine.
Exactly specify.
But when Birgitte says, oh, it's almost time, I need to go.
I think Birgitte understanding that and being able to track that can make sense to me. Nynaeve definitely can't plan it because she doesn't know how it works. And we never get a clear enough picture illustrated to us of exactly how it is different, only that it is different and inconsistently different.
Okay.
So it's a gap in our knowledge, not necessarily a flaw.
All right.
It could be, but it's not necessarily.
When Birgitte leaves, Nynaeve's all alone again. Has just a little bit of time to ponder some things and play around with her outfits, which she can change just like that in Tel'aran'rhiod. And then, ta-da, here's Egwene. And she has Elayne with her this time, the wise one. And we've met Elayne before.
A couple of times.
The two of them, they share information. This is what they meet for. But the first thing that passes between them is Nynaeve basically checking on Lan. Is Lan well? Is he okay? That guy, he's fine. He worries about you. She's like, fool man, doesn't need to be worrying about me. Kind of nice to know he cares, though, And other information that they pass between them is, okay, updates on where they're at now.
Yep.
A conversation about this alert from the Amerland for Elaine's capture. So getting Egwene up to speed on that. And they kind of try to talk to? What might that mean?
Why would Swan Sanche want this? What's
They
going
still,
on?
yeah, Egwene can't add anything to help make that any more sense than they have. Egwene shares the news about Couladin and the Shido crossing over the dragon wall. They're heading down into Cairhien, and so Rand and Aiel are on his tail. There's likely a new Aiel war coming.
Which realistically is a very heavy topic for these two country bumpkins to be talking about.
And Egwene brings up the oddness of how Moiraine is obeying Rand. Remind us of that, Zach. Why does that happen?
Yeah, she flipped the switch in what she's doing, and Rand was like, nah, I'm not listening to you. And then Moraine's like, nah, okay. But I really just need you to actually listen to my advice. What's it gonna take? So now she swore to obey him.
Yep.
And his direct orders.
She's doing it.
And she's doing it.
Yeah. Nynaeve's like, that is not right. That should not be happening. And that's just her principle as, men shouldn't be able to boss around women, really. But partly, also, it's an Aes Sedai. Come on. You don't do that. She has a different opinion of Aes Sedai now than she used to.
And both Egwene and Nynaeve have opinions on this that lack perspective that really no one has.
Mm-hmm. What perspective are you meaning?
Moraine's.
Which we won't go into now.
We can't yet.
Right. One last thing that's shared is that Nynaeve lets them know about the Forsaken that had been seen in Tel'aran'rhiod. Now, we get an interesting side conversation here because Nynaeve has to suggest she is the one who's been poking around Tel'aran'rhiod and has noticed all the things the Forsaken are doing. And she has to do that to protect Brigitte's secret,
That being said, her having to do that is also flaunting in front of Egwene and the Wise Ones that I've been poking around Tel'aran'rhiod and experimenting and doing all this, and it's like, that's stupid and dangerous.
Yes, you should not be doing that. You don't know the danger you're getting yourself into. Elayne even says, if you insist on going into Tel'aran'rhiod, you should come train with me, as your sister here, Egwene, has. She has done marvelous as a student, and we have helped her to better control her abilities. Now, Nynaeve just scoffs at this. She's like, I've taught myself plenty, and I've been quite successful in this life. Thank you very much. Which brings to light for Elayne what we already have known before, that Nynaeve's a wilder. Remind us what a wilder is?
It means that she went through magic puberty on her own and managed to not die.
That is a great phrase.
She does have some issues that come from unassisted channeling up.
Yes, called a block. Magic puberty. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, magic puberty, and she gets performance anxiety.
Going further in. All right. Elayne presses Nynaeve. Come to us. We will help you. And again, Nynaeve's like, no, I don't need it. Elayne's, fine. It will be a sad day when Lan has to grieve your death. And
yeah, it's a
Nynaeve's like, that's a cheap
blow,
shot. Wow.
But also, she's being as honest as she can because she thinks doing this is going to get you killed.
Yep. Clearly, Nynaeve is not going to listen, though. So Elayne and Egwene, they take their leave. And Nynaeve discovers once they're gone that her attire has changed. What happened? What is she wearing now?
Well, she's wearing a simple dress of the Aiel style. Her hair is in braids, but it's in 2 braids with little red ribbons in them.
She's also got a teddy bear.
She's very confused. She doesn't know what's going on. We do.
She does know what's going on because this happened to her once before.
Okay, it did get done before. I didn't remember if this was the first time I've had it done before.
The first time it happened, she was like, what the heck? But she eventually got it out of Egwene that, yeah, that's how the little immature girls amongst the Aiel dress. And yeah, the Wise One did that to you because you were acting like a child. So Nynaeve knows exactly why this got done, and she's ticked. Basically, Elayne and Elayne have pushed Nynaeve's buttons. How dare they tell her what she should or shouldn't do? I mean, she whooped a Forsaken for Patton's sake, so I'm gonna do whatever I want. And now she's mad, and she's just gonna, well, she decides to intentionally use Tel'aran'rhiod to solve the ongoing mystery of what's up with the Amyrlin. That's where the chapter ends.
Admirable, but stupid.
We go to chapter 15, still with Nynaeve. This is called What Can Be Learned in Dreams.
What can be learned in dreams, Dad?
Well, we're going to find out quite a bit. Nynaeve pictures in her mind the Amyrlin study, which is how you go places. Get a vision and you're there. She gets the vision very clear, and she's still in the Stone of Tear. Nothing happens. She's like, "Oh, what?" Now
real
she doesn't
fun the
want to
reasoning
admit
for this, but it's
what's that?
It's real fun the reasoning for this, but we'll get there in a moment.
Yes, and Nynaeve, okay, that's irritating because the last thing she wants to admit is something doesn't work in Tel'aran'rhiod, and she doesn't understand why. Because she just said, "I don't need any help." So she tries again, but this time picking a different place, and this is funny. She picks a place she knows much better in the White Tower. The study of the Mistress of Novices. Why is she so familiar with that place, Zach?
Because she's stubborn. She's got a stiff back. She bites back against any sort of oppression to herself. Therefore, she got her ass beat a lot.
Yeah, this is the place where novices who need to be whipped into shape literally are sent, and the Mistress of Novices paddles them soundly. Or whatever other discipline, but I think that's the most common one.
Look, when the Mistress of Novices takes off her slipper, you run.
Nynaeve was kind of very quickly elevated to accepted, but she was still a problem child. So she kept visiting the Mistress's Novices again and again and again, and stubbornly refused to really change. So yeah, very, very familiar with this room. Now, in this room, there is a full-length standing mirror, because at the end of punishment, it's a chance to stand in front of the mirror and pull yourself together. The women still believe even a naughty novice should have a chance to become presentable and the dignity of an Aes Sedai. Okay, so you get to look at yourself, dry your face, get your clothes all back together, and go. So she uses this mirror to look at herself and transform how she looks into a disguise. So she makes her clothes appear an accepted white with the colored bands at the bottom and the sleeves, and then she changes her hair and face, especially the face, to Elayne, that she just had the argument with, that wise one. So she looks like an accepted who looks like Elayne. Now she's like, if anybody sees me wandering the tower, they'll just think I'm some accepted who dreamt herself in here. I mean, I live here, so that's not unusual.
And I can bamf myself out, and it looks like I just woke up.
Yeah, points if you recognize that reference, bamf. And definitely check out our next episode because it's relevant. She's ready to jump out specifically if she sees someone else in the tower who is persistent. Not someone who's just there a few seconds and disappears. Somebody who is walking around, doing things, notices her, comes at her. Because who might she find? Who does she have to be on guard for while she's wandering the tower in Tel'aran'rhiod?
I mean, everyone.
Like everyone.
There's a lot of right answers to that question.
She's not gonna have to worry about running into Matt Coffin. Come on.
She might. Everyone. It's unlikely, but she might.
It's true. He has been here. It's possible.
Who are you fishing for?
Specifically, there's these Black Aja out there who have dreamed
There's
her
no more Black
unreal,
Aja in the tower. There's only 13 of them that are dreaming elsewhere.
but they could come to the tower and they'd have control and agency. So she's got to watch for that. And I'm thinking she also ought to remember, Forsaken are hanging out. They might show up too. It's possible.
Yeah, maybe just a little.
Well, with her disguise in place, she swiftly makes her way up to the Amyrlin's study, which is actually not that far from the study of the Mistress of Novices. And as she's approaching the antechamber, suddenly Elayne appears in front of her, looks right at her, and she sees Elayne has the Amyrlin stole hanging around her neck, except it's not right. There's no blue stripe in it.
Weird.
And Elayne focuses on her and speaks sternly. I am the Amyrlincy, girl. Do you not know how to show respect? I will have you. And then disappears mid-word. And Nynaeve's like, that was unpleasant. Clearly someone's having a nightmare. Or maybe Elayne's having her best dream ever. One of those. But Nynaeve, she's sure this is just a dream, because that's one thing that would never happen. Elayne as the Amyrlin, and she says this phrase. I loved this phrase. It will snow in Tyr before she ever rises that high, which I spin as this version of the wheels saying it'll be a cold day in hell before, that's kind of it.
So has it snowed in Tyr or?
Never.
You Never. Sure? Because
I don't know. I haven't visited it lately.
Because we know if that's it snowed with you the other day.
No, today it snowed out here.
It's snowing today.
Yeah, it's raining now, but it was 30 degrees this morning, and then precipitation moved in. It was already up to like 36, but it's colder up above, so it was falling as snow and then melting.
Yeah, that's not so fun when you don't want it.
No, I don't like that.
If you wanted snow, it's fine, but you don't.
I never want snow. Never. Okay. There's the shock of Elayne, but it comes and it goes. Nynaeve has a mission. So she moves through the antechamber and actually enters the Amyrlin's study. And now she finds why she had trouble coming here. You want to tell them what she discovers and why did it not work when she pictured the study?
She had a clear picture of the Amyrlin study as it was, not as it is. There's been some major redecorating. Everything is different. Honestly, they probably took down a wall and expanded or something.
They put in a wet bar. The same. It's practically unrecognizable from the way Swan Sanche had kept this room last she was here. So it's like, what's going on? And then Nynaeve sees a red-haired accepted that she doesn't recognize step into the room and stare at her. Uh-oh, here's what she was waiting for. Someone who persistent, shows, notices her. This could be bad. And she gets ready to jump out of the room when the person speaks and says, wow, you have no idea how bad it'll be for you if Elayne finds out you're using her face here. And then this girl transforms into Egwene. So they both had the idea to come
both
check
did the same thing
here. Now there's a conversation that takes place between the two of them that has something going on, some subtext that's hard to explain. It's better to experience. So I thought we'd do a dramatic reading here, just using the words, not the the stuff outside of the conversation quotes,
not the actual subtext.
Right. So
that subtext that is hard to get a feel for, you want us to ignore.
I want it to come through the way we talk. We're both theatrical people, my son.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm about to pull this completely extemporaneously with very minimal preparation.
Well, I'm going to have you be Nynaeve, so just channel Nynaeve, okay? It's not that hard. Egwene's the one that takes a little more effort, so I'll do Egwene because I'm prepped. So I am going to read just the paragraph right before I said we're going to start, which repeats what I already told people here. So to set it. The door opened, and Nynaeve's heart leaped into her throat. A red-haired accepted she had never seen before stepped into the room and stared at her. She did not wink out of existence. Just as Nynaeve was preparing to leap back to Sheriam's study, the red-haired woman said, Nynaeve, if Elayne knew you were using her face, she'd do more than put you in a child's dress. And just that suddenly, she was Egwene in her Aiel garb.
You nearly frightened 10 years out of me. So the wise ones have finally decided to let you come and go as you please? Or is Elayne behind?
You should be frightened. You are a fool, Nynaeve. A child playing in the barn with a candle.
You listen to me, Egwene Alvier. I'll not take that from Elayne, and I won't take it.
You had best take it from someone before you get yourself killed.
I
ought to take that stone ring away from you. I should have given it to Elayne and told her not to let you use it at all.
Told her not to.
Do you think Elayne was exaggerating? She was not, Nynaeve. The wise ones have told you the simple truth about Tel'aran'rhiod time and again. But you seem to think they're fools whistling in the high wind. You are supposed to be a grown woman, not a silly little child. I vow, whatever sense you once had in your head seems to have vanished like a puff of smoke. Well, find it, Nynaeve. Right now you are trying to play with the pretty flames in the fireplace, too foolish to realize you might fall in.
I am well aware of how much I don't know, but those Aiel.
Do you realize you could dream yourself into something you could not get out of? Dreams are real here. If you let yourself drift into a fond dream, it could trap you. You'd trap yourself until you died.
Well, you...
There are nightmares walking Tel'aran'rhiod, Nynaeve.
Will you let me speak?
No, I will not. Not until you want to say something worth listening to. I said nightmares, and I mean business. I meant nightmares, Nynaeve. When someone has a nightmare while in Tel'aran'rhiod, it is real too. And sometimes it survives after the dreamer has gone. You just don't realize, do you? Now, that's where the dramatic reading ends, and I will comment that there's no and I mean business. That just slipped into my saying.
Will also comment that I was the one who thought I couldn't read, but apparently I was wrong.
Hey, I don't have my glasses on. It looked like business.
Old man.
But I do want to then point out what happens after this is two nightmare monsters grab Nynaeve and begin to terrorize her until Nynaeve screams out in fear for help, and they disappear then. And Nynaeve drops with a thump, and Egwene pretty much is sitting there going, and let that be a lesson to you. The point made, now they look together at the Amyrlin study, agreeing this doesn't look like Swan Sanjay.
No. And
they investigate, and Egwene dictates the investigation. She says, you look around in here, I'm going to go back out and check Leanne's desk out there, the keeper. And I'll look through her things, and let's see what we can find. And Nynaeve's like, what do you mean giving me orders? But she kind of just keeps it in her head because Egwene just put her in her place. And she's like, yeah, there's been like a power shift here.
A little bit.
So what do we discover? Well, the wall hangings are different. One of them in particular is pretty striking because it's one of those artist renderings of Rand in the sky above Falme.
Rand in the sky with diamonds.
No. Rand in the sky with ballsy. Come on. But the way that is portrayed there, it's clearly intended to remind anybody who's in the Amyrlin that the Dragon Reborn is dangerous. Okay, that doesn't seem to make sense. They start going through some papers on these various desks. And there's a thing about this. I have this later in my notes, but I'm going to say it here now. When you look at documents, these are things from the real world that are transitory. Okay, it's not like a desk that always sits there. It's something that comes and goes. So in Tel'aran'rhiod, you have the same problem with documents. They pick one up, and it'll be in their hand for maybe a few seconds, and then it disappears. It's gone. Oh, it's back in the pile of documents. Not necessarily back on top. It's shuffled in somewhere. It's very hard to look at these documents and actually get information because you get 5 or 6 words in and it disappears.
You have to learn to read fast.
Yes, you do. They're just scanning things as quick as they can. So she sees a letter in here from Jolene Aes Sedai with a request to serve penances and the word approved noted at the bottom. Now, we know what that's a reference to, but they don't. We see a report that the Marshal General of Saldia and his army cannot be found. And Queen Tenobia of Saldia is not cooperating. She's not telling anything about it. It's like it doesn't bother her. There's a note that all information from our eyes and ears in Tanchico has stopped. There's been no word the last 3 weeks.
I wonder why.
Oh, and Egwene shouts from the other room as she comes upon confirmation that Elaida is now the armor.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
No, that's not good. Now, there's no sign of what happened to Swan, but I mean that means she's dead, right? I mean, you are Amerlin for life. They also come across a notice that Moraine is sought, and all loyal sisters are to bring her back by any means necessary, where she will stand trial on a charge of treason.
Well, that seems sus, especially considering they don't have a crown to really swear to be treasonous towards.
Treason against the tower? Now, Nynaeve catches something significant in that note, and it was the phrase, loyal sisters. Because that same turn of phrase was used in the note that Rhonda Makura, that message she had, that she followed up in capturing Elayne. All loyal sisters are encouraged to return to the tower. That was the message.
I mean, the unspoken implied inverse is that there are disloyal sisters.
Right. The light bulb goes off for Nynaeve. The tower has split. They're not all sided with Elaida. There are clearly some that have pulled away and are being called the disloyal ones.
To be fair, Nynaeve has a tiny piece of information that Egwene doesn't have in this. Because she saw Elaida's dream. She saw her pop in with a color of the stole missing.
Yeah. So as they discuss this a little further, they're kind of going to put these pieces of information together. But I'll toss in here, again, this is a Nynaeve point of view chapter. It's at this point, it dawns on Nynaeve that the dynamic between the two of them has shifted. Egwene's driving this conversation. Egwene is the one in charge here. Nynaeve is no longer the master. She's not real comfortable with that.
No.
But it's clear. Egwene's the boss. So they discuss, okay, what do we need to do with this news? Elaida, the Amerlin. Okay, well, Moraine and Rand need to be told. Egwene's sure of that. Maybe not the Aiel yet, though. Maybe it's better they don't know there's issues at the tower.
Yeah, probably.
And Nynaeve, okay, you need to find these disloyal sisters. Okay, one of the notes that Nynaeve had found talked about a gathering in a hidden place of blue sisters. Okay, again, the blues removed from the stole, so it makes sense. The blue are out, and they're out somewhere else, gathering together in opposition or just hiding out. Clearly, they're not on board with Team Elaida.
Which is fair.
This note said something about where that hidden camp was suspected to be, but it's one of those notes that disappeared before she could really grasp the whole importance. It's also the note she was hiding when Egwene shouted, "No!" Having found the news about Elaida. So it kind of startled the information out of her, too. So Nynaeve's frustrated here. She's like, okay, I know something that can help. but I can't freaking remember it right now. I cannot pull it out of my head. It's on the tip of my tongue. Ah. And Egwene's like, you remember that girl. Figure it out. Find it, because that's your job now. You and Elayne, you need to find that group of blue sisters.
I don't know why they don't just like immediately go back to all the papers and try and find it again.
Maybe they do, and it doesn't show up this time. There's no rhyme or reason with those papers.
Or with the way that they're investigating.
So this is Nynaeve and Elayne's new mission, because clearly with Elaida in charge, the White Tower is not going to be supporting Rand al'Thor. This is a red sister in charge now. No, that's not going to work. But maybe the blues in exile would be willing to. Maybe these are the ones that they can count on if they find them to rally support for Rand.
Maybe.
So with that in mind, they are done. And they both leave Tel'aran'rhiod. For the final part of the chapter, we shift to Egwene's point of view, waking up out of the dream. And looking around very quickly to see if anybody noticed her. And here we get the understanding of what happened in that dramatic reading you and I did earlier. Because Egwene went off on Nynaeve, chastising her, even bringing the nightmare at her to scare her into, what are you doing in Tel'aran'rhiod, and you shouldn't be here, and not letting her get a word in edgewise, because Nynaeve could have put the pieces together that Egwene was here without the wise ones knowing it.
Yeah, she wasn't supposed to be there either.
No, because that's her first concern when she comes out. Did anyone realize I was gone in the dream? She promised not to do this without a wise one's permission. And she did not have permission. And she knows the consequence. If they catch her doing this, she will be sent away. No more teaching. We're done with you. Because
flunked out.
We're only going to help you if you're going to let us help you not die. Okay? But if you keep taking stupid risks, you're going to die. And we're not going to waste our time. But they're not really checking on her. This is the honor of the Aiel. She said she won't do it, so they believe she won't do it.
Plus, they believe she's full Aes Sedai and literally can't lie.
Yeah, there's that.
Like, they're relying on something that is valid, except that it's based in a lie.
Now, her greatest concern if she gets caught, again, is not that they might punish her. It's that they might be done with her.
Yeah, that she
does not want to disappoint them. She wants to continue to learn from them and have their respect. That's become important to her. But the needs of their mission are too important to not break her promise to the Aiel. So that's how she lives. She's rolling with it. But nobody noticed. Egwene's okay. She leaves her tent, heads to Rand's tent. She's got something to tell him. And finds that, yeah, he's awake, but he's not alone. Jason Natile, the Gleeman to the Dragon Reborn, is hanging out with him. They're having conversation.
Of course he is.
So she's not going to talk about this in front of someone else. She wants to keep it tight. She goes to the other tent of a person she wants to share this information with. She looks for Moiraine. Lan is out in front of it. Seems to be sleeping. Except as she approaches the tent, one eye cracks open. He knows she's there. No. But it's Egwene, so he doesn't say anything and do anything. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she knocks on the tent, but she makes her presence known, and Moiraine invites her in. But as she's approaching that tent, she sensed Moiraine was channeling. Just a little dribble of power. And entering the tent, she can see what it is. Moraine's using her eavesdropping trick.
Ah, good.
Who's she eavesdropping on?
I mean, she's probably trying to listen to Rand.
Totally. And Egwene's like, I thought you said you weren't going to do that anymore, eavesdrop on Rand. She's like, well, no, I never said that. I said he should be allowed some privacy, but I still never promised I wouldn't listen in anyway. I said I talk.
Yeah, she said he should be. Not that he can't be.
Mm-hmm. Now, mostly she was saying that to get the wise ones to back off.
Uh-huh.
And she tells Egwene here, the Wise One's agenda is not the same as Aes Sedai needs. I got to do what's needed for the tower. Egwene shares the news of Elaida. And Moraine's like, how do you know that? Has your talent as a dreamer finally bore fruit? And Egwene's
of course.
Well, she doesn't say that. Doesn't say that.
No.
Egwene's like, you just gave me a gift because I don't have to lie now.
Plausible deniability.
I can just play Aes Sedai. So here's her response. It's brilliant. She said, I saw an arrest warrant for you, Moraine, signed by Elaida as Amyrlin, and it was no ordinary dream. See,
which
those words are
correct.
100% true.
It sounds like she's saying she dreamed it.
Yep.
Her special talent of dreaming
plays right into Moraine's expectation.
But instead, she world of dreams it.
Moraine sighs, accepts that, well, perhaps it won't matter so much anymore now that Rand leads Aiel over the Dragon Wall. Elaida surely won't be following Swan's plan to rally the support of the rulers behind the Dragon Reborn, so this is as good a plan as any. And Egwene's like, wow, kind of callous. I thought you and Swan were friends. I tell you, she's gone. Elaida's the Amyrlin, and you don't even mention that.
And Moraine's like,
no tears, anything.
Look, 1, we're not that close. 2,
got no time to bleed.
Even if we were that close, Swan and I were closer, and yet we dedicated our lives the past decades to this mission. And nothing, not even each other, gets in the way of that.
That's right. Did you get my reference, by the way?
No, but mostly because I wasn't listening.
I don't have time to bleed.
It's a reference. I don't remember what it's from.
Predator. Jesse Ventura. Classic. He dies shortly thereafter. Spoilers.
He did not have time to bleed.
Okay, there you go. Well, Egwene brings up then what she considers good news. Okay, Elaida might be in charge, but I was able to discern some Aes Sedai have broken away from Elaida. And so if we can find them, they might still support Rand. But Moraine's like, that's not good news. Why is that not good news, Zach? From Moraine's perspective.
Because regardless of whether you get this half or that half or what portion of Aes Sedai you get to follow Rand, it's not about having Aes Sedai following Rand. It's about having the full united force of the tower there, supporting Rand at the last battle. And what you're telling her is that not only is Swan not there, not only is that support not going to be there, but the tower itself is split. That bastion of safety and power has a massive schism that isn't just as simple as Black Aja.
Moraine literally says, I might almost have wished everyone supported Elaida over that. That's severe. Egwene asks Moraine, okay, well, what do you intend to do now, moving forward? And she says, well, I'm going to help Rand. Heck, it's probably easier now that I don't have to try to shift his plans to align with what Swan's doing. His plan is as good as any now. I can just, as long as I can, help him be successful. 2 last bits of conversation remain. Egwene shares that she also learned the Forsaken have been seen busily working and plotting, all except Asmodean and Moghedien. Lanfear's sighting is the one that's most unpleasant to Moraine. I mean, they know she visited Rand when they were back in Tyr. She's an active player, so we don't want Lanfear sightings. And with a bunch of Forsaken around, what if they all come at him in mass? And Moraine's like, Rand will just need to be ready if any of them come at him. We can't hold his hand forever. He's just going to have to be tough enough.
Yeah, I'm just like, hold on. Forsaken, work together? What about Forsaken that any of us know tell us that that's going to be a possibility. Come
There
on.
is that. There is that. The other thing is, Egwene asks Moraine here, why are you doing whatever Rand says? I mean, even Nynaeve thinks that's wrong. And Moraine's like, she does she? Yeah, maybe that girl will be an Aes Sedai yet. But she says, here's why. I remembered how to control Saidar. First, you have to surrender to it.
Which is a very poetic way to say nothing.
I love it.
I think it's
I've
great.
surrendered
It
to
says a
Rand
lot.
so that I may channel him in the best directions.
But it also, like, Egwene looks at that and goes, okay, have you lost it? Like, that means nothing to me. So it is a meaningful, cool thing to say, but it's also like, are you intentionally trying to be obtuse and cryptic?
You know, more so, though, as Egwene leaves, what she's thinking is, whoa, that whole conversation, Moraine treated me like an equal. She didn't talk down to me once. That's the first time I think that's happened for a whole conversation. Maybe I'm getting closer to true Aes Sedai than I realized.
Or maybe everyone's lacking Moraine's perspective and no one really gets what's going on.
That is the end of the chapter. That is the end of this episode. 3 great chapters. I hope you enjoyed them. If you're a first-time reader, bye-bye. Because we're about to spoil something here now, a couple of things from this episode. So this is where you should hop out. We will point out, again, in the show notes, all the ways you can connect with us. Discord, social media, ways you can support us, buy our merch, support us on Patreon. We'd love to get to know you more and hear what you're thinking about our content and anything else that's on your mind. But go away now so we don't ruin the book for you, first-time reader.
As we enter the...
Oh, that was my cue?
I'm going for it. I'm pointing the right direction even.
The spoiler room.
And you gave it to me twice.
The spoiler room.
Is it a third?
Because I clicked the wrong spot to try to pull it out. That happens again and again.
You'd think we'd get better, we'd learn, but it's starting to just be a fun little repeated bit. So I'm starting to think you do it on purpose.
I'm going with my pretty multicolored hued 20.
I am playing some D&D later and have handpicked some dice for tonight. We're using one of those. If it's bad, we're changing what dice we're using tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to put my glasses on to read what's on the die. That's sorry.
That's okay. I'm probably going first, and we're using these dice tonight.
I got a 13.
I got
Lucky
19.
13. 19?
19.
I can't remember when I beat you on the roll.
It's been a
I
little
cannot
while.
remember the last time.
I don't think it's been this book.
No, I don't think so. All right. Gives me time to think of what I want to spoil.
Yeah, I'm
What do
going
you want to spoil?
light and easy here. There are a bunch of little spots throughout these chapters, just little things, ways that people like talk about certain decisions or reference certain things or talk about how they don't get things that are just foreshadowing Moraine's about to be out of the picture. Like she's gonna die or in some way. We know it's more complicated than that, but she's gonna be gone. And she knows this. And it goes down to as much as like her making that comment of, I remembered you have to surrender to it. Basically. I'm like, you're doing that cryptic, poetic last words thing. You are telling everyone around you you're not going to be here. And you're even sometimes directly telling them, I'm not always going to be here. And so it's just like, this entire book is Moraine's goodbye letter. Until she actually has a goodbye letter that gets read many books later that
True.
isn't goodbye. But
yeah. All right. For me, my spoiler, I want to talk about Valen Luca.
Go for it.
And his broad shoulders.
Yeah? Yeah?
This is the first hint of the fact that Nynaeve actually finds him a little attractive. Just physically, not personality, but he's got a carriage, a build that fits the mold of what she sees as an admirable man, like Lan. And so we're going to get back to, not too much longer, where they're hanging out with the menagerie for a while. And it's made possible because of this little flirtatious connection between Nynaeve and Luca. And it's not all really hard for Nynaeve.
No, I mean,
That's what I'm saying here. She does think he's kind of cute.
Let's just
and
be
is
real.
willing to flirt.
Nynaeve's type is a man that she can boss around and yell at, but also can literally and physically put her in her place.
Those broad shoulders. All right. That was it. That's all I want. We're going to get more of Vale and Luca. We probably should have had more Vale and Luca in the Wheel of Time. I don't think there was enough. He's a fun character.
I don't know if I agree with you, but I think that sometimes I like him and sometimes I'm bored of him.
Oh, my first time reading the series, I agree with you. I was really bored. But now when I do rereads, I find those entertaining chapters. I just do. I found the nuances. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Let me run the outro to remind you of all the fascinating ways that you can connect with us. If you aren't already a subscriber, please do. Don't forget to like this episode here on YouTube. If you're listening in the audio, consider giving us a rating and write a review. We have not had a fresh review in a long time.
It's been a little while, yeah.
Yeah, we've got all 5-star reviews, but we'd sure love a few more. So, hey, consider doing that. That would be really kind of you. If you want to go next level, support us on Patreon. That information is also here. That's where you can be like Carrie and join us. We love having people with us. All right, that's all I got. Anything you got, Zach? You got
Nope.
thumbs up. All right, we'll talk to you next time.